Hello everyone, this is Pedro from Pythonist again. I'm just gonna continue where I left last week. So we built a Strava API like a calculator. So if I put here, if I have a target, so just gonna show the final product of the last one to recap. So let's say a product of 5,000 kilometers and I've done so far 2,300, and then it turns that I'm on target by 26 kilometers as of today. So what I'm going to do today, I'm going to extend that API just to create that front end here, where I'm just going to call the same controller or the calculations on my back end, where I can pass the same numbers, let's say 5,000. No, that's the opposite. So let's see 2,300, and then I've done 5,000 so far. And then if I calculate, it returns the same message, but with a beautiful front end. And then I can go home and calculate again. We also have some error handling here. So let's see if I pass some rubbish here, that's not number, and it returned a message said targeting kilometer needs to be a number. So let's get started. So I have here the code exactly as I left when we did last week. So what we need to do, I'm gonna create new folders here. The architecture is gonna be, I'm gonna create like view models and views. So the view models will deal with the data that I'm going to pass into the HTML, and I'm gonna use Jinja templates for that. So there are other templates, but the most common one is Jinja. And then I'm gonna create like view routes where it's gonna look after the my HTTP endpoints. And then I also have templates where I'm gonna have my HTML file, and I also have a folder with static. So let's create those folder structure first. So as I said, so let's create one called views, one called not inside, but on the main one like called view models, and another one called static, and another one called templates. So let's start with the view models. Probably that's gonna be a dependency for views, for example. So on the view model, I usually create one called shared, which is going to be a model that every view are going to use, and all other models will inherit from this one. So API, Fastapi is a web framework that is based basically in Starlet, which is a asynchronous web framework written in Python. So I'm just going to import from Starlet requests. I'm just going to import request. Obviously I forgot the keywords, that's why. And then I'm just going to create this class. I cannot type, so called view model base. And I got this architecture from Michael Kennedy talk Python to me. So that's a training that he does in Fastapi. So I'm just gonna init this class here, and then I'm just gonna have this common request object here that's gonna be passed to all requests in my, and then I'm just gonna return requests, and that's gonna be request equals request. That's pretty much it. And then I have another method here called toDict, which takes self, and self we don't need to type int, and that one returns a dictionary. And that returns self, and then toDict. sorry, not to dict. Yeah. So that's pretty much it for the shared. And then we have to create another view model, which we're gonna call target Strava. Good. Strava. And then I'm just gonna copy and paste here. It's gonna be easy. I have got that already written. And then I'm gonna import a little bit different here. I think I have that. Yeah. And then this one I'll do later. So just to get started, and then I'm just gonna code the views. So I'm just gonna have a class which is gonna call target status view. I cannot type model, and that's gonna be an inheritance of the view model base, which is gonna automatically get the request object. So I'm just gonna init, and I already have that requests that's coming from super. It's pretty cool, like VS Code that identified by the inheritance in the initialize super. And then I'm just gonna have three attributes here. One is gonna be the target, which is gonna be at first optional. It's gonna be string, and I'll initialize that as just a named string. And then I'll have a kms. That's gonna be also optional, same thing, string. And then I'm just gonna initialize as a named string. And the last one is the message, which you will understand later. So if you remember from the previous video, if you haven't watched it, please click on the link here and then you will watch it. I'm gonna put that one to none. Cool. And then to get started, there's another two methods that I will write as we code along. So, but with that, I can go and write some views, which I'm gonna call, I'm just gonna call this module Strava target .py, which I'm gonna put all the views for that. So if you remember, I'm gonna import Fastapi, and I'm just gonna use also that router architecture. So it's gonna be Fastapi API router, and then I'm gonna create the view with that decorator, which is gonna be router, and then I'm gonna do a get method, which is that one. And then because I'm using a HTTP response, or not HTTP response, a HTML response, I'm gonna render the front end from the server. I need to put the response class HTML response, and I have to import that also from Fastapi. So I'm just gonna do from Fastapi responses import HTML response, and then that fix that. But I also need to enter another argument here, which is solving content schema, and that's gonna be false. And now I'm just gonna do my remove function called form, and then I'm just gonna pass the request, which every endpoint receive. And then I also need to import the request. So from Fastapi import request. And I'm just gonna just to demonstrate the HTML response, I can just return, and I'm just gonna put just h1 tag to see how it goes. So h1 tag, and I'll put hello, and then I think that's gonna be enough. I'm just closing the tag. Let's see if we register that. So app include router, and then I'm going to import in my file here from views, import Strava target. I think we have to import Strava target, and then I'm gonna have Strava target dot router, and then with that we should have that HTML. Just gonna activate my virtual environment here. UV main app reload. Hopefully, it's already used. I need to stop the server that I'm already running, and looks like it's working. And I have hello. Cool. So that's a good start. So what I'm gonna do now, I'm just gonna copy and paste a HTML and create a template. So I'm gonna create a new folder here called Strava. That's all my templates for the Strava part of my application will be here. And then I'm gonna put a template called index.html, and then the code that I'm gonna copy and paste is that, because this is not a front end video. So, and then you're gonna see, but how can we return that into my target Strava view? So I have to do something here. So create templates. So that's gonna be templates equals, and then I have to import Jinja templates, and that I'm gonna get from Fastapi templating module. Templating, import Jinja templates, and then that's gonna be that Jinja templates, and then I'm just gonna tell where the templates are. It's on a directory called templates, which is that one there. It should be on the root directory. Okay. And then with that, I can then, instead of return that text here, I'm gonna return templates, and then I'm gonna do template response. And then what I need to tell is within that folder, if there is where the file is, which is template in the root plus Strava, and then index.html. And then there is all the arguments here, which is my context, which is required, and everything else is default. So I need to pass a dictionary. First one is the request, which is that request coming from there. Not this one, the argument. And then another one, it's this the only minimal one, and everything is data. And I'm just gonna show how to use it here, my data. And with that, so let's save and see what happened. Oops, I have an error. Request key. It's request. A typo. Now try again. And voila. So I have I think I copied the wrong, yeah, no, I think that's correct. So I copied the form, but you wanted to do some pretty up that. To pretty up that, we would need CSS, and a framework for CSS that's very useful is Bootstrap, the one that I like. There another one called Tailwinds that I don't know much how to use, but I am very familiar with Bootstrap. But for that, and also a CSS, you need to create a static folder to have some CSS. So let's do this then. I'm just gonna have a static folder here, and then I'm gonna create a new one called CSS. And then within that, I'm just gonna create a style .css. And then, so what I'm gonna do, I have here in main, I have to mount that static file. So which I already have here. I just need to mount app mount, and then I need to mount the static folder, static, and then I have that static files class that I'm gonna pass a directory that's gonna be static, and then the last argument name equals static. And then I think that's it. With that, so nothing changed, but and then I'm just gonna put some HTML or not CSS in this here. So I'm just gonna copy and paste. That's gonna make that. Before that, let's go here. So in order to use Bootstrap, these are all the classes that will format my folder. Not my folder, my HTML. I'm gonna get you need to pass those script tags and style sheets. You need to do that in the header after the title here. If I just do this, look at what happened with my page. It's gonna look much better. So, but I just need to add that style sheet here, which is gonna make the background the purple color. So, but to inject that into my HTML, I now can do Jinja template here, and I'm just gonna copy and paste here, and then we don't need to type. So should be, it can be before after. So I'm using this href reference, and then I have a double curly brackets with URL for static, which is this, and then the path of my CSS style sheet. And then I save that, and then if I go back to my app, beautiful. So I have this one working. So let's go back. I think all the structure now is done. So it's just code now. So if we go back to the application here, let's go to the views, not models, views. So what I need to do here now, I'm gonna have like a get, which are going just to render that template, and then what I do is I use now the view model, which I'm gonna import. So from those import, I think it's called Strava target Strava, import target view model. So that's gonna be target view model, and then that takes an argument called request, the type request, and then on the here, if I just pass view model and then the method to dict, and then call it, and then that's gonna pass the data to this folder. Yeah, that's it. Beautiful. And then I'll have access to that data. So what I'm gonna do now, so how I'm gonna pass here the kilometers, and then when I say calculate, so can you see like method not allowed? Because when I do that, if you see here in the server, it does a get request. So I need to have another view, and then I can call the same function, but the name of that should be, the method of that should be post. And then what I'm gonna do, whenever there is a post, I wanted to do something here and capture the data from my form. And then I wanted to redirect to another route that I'm gonna write, and then I'm gonna render the results of the data that I calculate on my back end. So how I'm gonna do that? Just hang on. I'm gonna write that with you. So what's gonna happen here? I need to create a method that's a sync method. That's why this function needs to be a sync. And then let's go back to my target started view model, and then I'll write a method here that's a sync, and then this method is gonna be called load, because the form of that when it gets data in Fast API, I'm just gonna use a async method. So, and then because I have to use a await in the request object. So I'm just gonna write here form, which is where I'm gonna save the results, and I have to do a await, and on the request object that I saved there, I have access to my form. Cool. And then now I have my form. So with my form, I can extract the target from my form. So I'm just gonna use the method get, and it's called target. So if I go to my HTML just to show you, I have a form, can you see here? And I have the target, which is an input name target. So that's how I'm just telling in here to get the target. And then I also have to get the KMs, and that's gonna be from form, and the name I called there was kilometers. With that, I can get the data and save on my model. But what I need to do here, once I have the request, I need to call that method. And because it's a async method, I need to then await and then call the method load, which is kind of whenever I do a post request, that route's gonna be executed, and then that's gonna load the data of the form into my model. And then I have to redirect for that. So I'm just gonna create a response variable, and then that's going to be a, let's import that on top. So from Fastapi, I think it's responses, import, I think it's redirect response. Okay, so I'm just gonna call it redirect response, and then the redirect response, what you need to do is to pass what is going to be the router of that response. So for now, I'm just gonna redirect to, I'm just gonna write here, and then I'll write I'll call it target status, which is gonna be the right route that I'm responding to. But then you have to pass the status code, which is redirecting code, and then you have to import that. Output from Fastapi, import status, and then with the status I can have the one that I'm going to respond here, which in this case is 302. 302, where are you? Yeah, this one. 302 found. And then I'm going to return that response. So far, so what I'm gonna do, oops, not return response. So far so good. Just to that's gonna kind of break because this one doesn't exist, so that's gonna give a not found message. But just let I'll print my view model to dict to see if the data is getting populated in my model. So let's go back to here, and then when I calculate, it's gonna be a post that's gonna go to the other route and then redirect. So it says not found, but let's see if we capture the data. So can you see that I have the my VM to dict? I have the request object, I have the target, and I have the kilometers, and the message is none, because I need to remember that we created that controller last week. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reuse this function here to calculate my distance. So for that, I have to go back to my model, and then I'm gonna create a method called and then that's gonna be self, and everything I need is already in the model. So I'm just gonna do self message equals. I don't need to return anything. I just need to do some calculations, and for that I'm just gonna use the Strava assess target method, and then I have to pass. I'll cast the target and the kilometers to integer because they are texts coming from the HTML form. So that's self kms, and then I need to just to import that from the controller. So from my goodness, I'm really bad at typing today. So controllers, import controllers.strava, import, what's the name of the function there? It's called assess target. So assess target, which is going to be that one. Good. And then now I can call this function. And then on here, I'm just gonna VM. That's not a asynchronous. And then I have access target. And then if I do that, what I did again, it's going to, you are on target by 3,636 kilometers because my target is, yeah, my KMs, and I've done 3,000. My target is, looks like it's a bit odd. I think I've swapped the, let's see the order here on my function. I think it's the opposite. So it is first KMs and then target. So I should have passed first the KMs and then the target, and then it will look a bit better. Let's save and do it again. Yeah, now it looks fine. You are on target by 726 kilometers. Makes sense. So I think all the logic is fine. What we need to do now, the last piece of code that we need to write, we need to go here, do another route or another endpoint view, router, and then that's going to be a get, and then the router is going to be that one here, and then that's going to be pretty much like that because it's going to be a HTML response. I'm just going to copy and paste that bit, and then just going to do a function called target status, and it's going to be request, which is going to be a request object, and then for now it's fine. And then I just wanted to handle that. I'll do that later. So I'm just gonna return. I'm gonna return template. So template response, and then I'm gonna create a new HTML file on Strava. I'll call it target status HTML, and I'm just gonna VM, and then I'm gonna pass the, I need to get the view model here, the same view model. I'm gonna pass the request, and then I'm gonna call VM to dict. Now I'm just gonna need to create that file called target status HTML, and then I'm just gonna copy and paste what I already have here. So let's see if that's gonna work. Hopefully it will work. Yeah, so I just need to pretty up that, and then I need to populate that with data. And then I'll explain how to pass data into Jinja templates. So the way you do it, so let me just fix that CSS first, which is those scripts here, like that, and then it's gonna look better. Yeah, so now I need to just now pass the data here. But how I'm gonna do this? I did some Googling and then I couldn't find any solution. But the way it's done here, I somehow need to pass the data from these routes to this route, but there is not a way to do that in because in Fast API, I'll demonstrate that So if I go here and then I put to dict, and then I'm just gonna print that, and then there will be nothing. I'm gonna lose all the information. So even though I have it here, I don't have it here. So if I go back and then I calculate, I go here, but when I get to here, my targets are all gone. So the workaround to pass the data that I found a solution is to create a pass. When I redirect, I pass in parameters. So what I'm gonna do here, just gonna delete that. So when I pass that, I'm just gonna create parameters like query parameters, params, and then that's gonna be, I'm just gonna do a f string. And then what I'm gonna pass is a query parameter which starts with a question mark, and then I pass the km's key, and the value is gonna be view model km's, and then I have to pass a ampersand, and then the next one is going to be target, and then the value is vm target. Beautiful. So I have my parameters query that I'm just going to, and then there's another one I forgot, which is the message. That's going to be equal VM message. And then I inject that into this string F. And then I'm just going to add the params here. So when I do that, so look at what happens. I go back, I click, and then I have the data here. So what I need to do, I need to extract those query parameters here into my HTML. How do I do that? Pretty easy. So, oops, not Facebook. So if I go to Fast API documentation, and then I go tutorial, and then I go query parameters. So what I can do when I have the parameter, the way I can access, if I create on my router, the name of the parameters. So the way I'm gonna do is, so now I'm in this route, and then I'm just gonna access that and then inject into my model. So how I'm gonna do it? Simple. I pass the here. If I tell that there is a one called target, and then that's a string, and then there is one called kms, and then that's also a string, and then there is one called I know I don't need that, so I don't need the message, I think, because the message I can recalculate that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna do vm kms equals kms, vm target equals target. It's coming from my parameters here. And let's see, now let's print vm to dict, and then see if I'm now capturing from the parameters. So hopefully this works. If I go here, I go back, and then I go back here. Yeah, I'm getting the target and the parameters, so it's working. But now if I do a VM assess target, and then that's gonna also create the message. So 1,000, 5,000. Yeah, now I have the message. So what I need to do now is just to put that into my template. So that the way I do is, so far you have done, and then I do curly braces twice, and I pass my KMs, the key, and that's my target, and the message. I already have the word message here, and then that's pretty much done. I think I'm gonna stop here because this video is getting too long. So let's see if just this happen and it works. Yeah, it works. So you are on target by, it's red. So because the video is too long, I'm just gonna do another video to just to show Jinja templates on how to do Python in Jinja. So let's go back and just fix that. For this not to be danger, I'm just gonna do success, and that text will be green now. Yeah. All right, guys. Thanks very much for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Like the video, and really thank you for watching and coming this long. Hope you enjoy it. If you don't understand anything, please put on the comments below, and don't forget to watch the first video of the Fastapi series. I intend to do more videos about Fastapi. Hope you enjoyed. Probably the next one, not next week, but I wanted to do a video to integrate with React at the front end as opposed to use Jinja templates. And that's it. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.